Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 134 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron. So happy that you're here with me. Today I'm talking to Ella Barnard, who is just a delightful creature. And we talk about how to make fans one by one. So you'll want to stay and listen for that. In a personal update, this is going to be a very short personal update. I feel like I'm getting a lot of good stuff done, but at the same time, it's just one of those days where I keep picking up balls that I have dropped, one after another. I'm sitting in a ball pit basically. And these are all the ones that I've dropped. So I'm picking them up as quickly as I can while trying to maintain some equanimity, which is my favorite feeling, I think. In order to make up for this short intro, if you want to hear one of the most difficult conversations I've ever had with Jay Thorne, go listen to this week's episode of The Writer's Well. It was a doozy. He threw a doozy question at me basically about what's the feeling you don't want to feel. So the feeling I do want to feel is equanimity, and I do have some of that, even though I'm sitting around all these drop balls, which is fine. Writing is going well, just not enough of it. Marketing is going well, just not enough of it. And you know what is going well, though, is swimming. I'm taking swimming lessons. And I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but it is just so wonderful to be using my body in this really new and very strange way. It's crazy. I've always thrashed through the water. I can do freestyle. I can do, basically all the strokes that I learned when I was 5 or 6. So I do them the way I was taught, which was not by a swimmer. I'm sure it was my mom or my dad, and it's all wrong. And when it gets you to land, that's awesome. That's why I had to know how to swim. But now learning actually how to do it properly and how to move through the water with economy and grace while breathing, while prioritizing air getting to your muscles, it's just something super beautiful and very not graceful right now. I am failing and flailing in all the ways. I'm not drowning, so that's good. That's really all I need to avoid. But it's really nice to put myself back to beginner's mind and realize I know nothing about this. And it's real fun. When you don't know much, the learning curve is steep and you can see that progression. Sometimes when you know a lot about something, you are on that plateau. Hopefully you're always getting a little bit better, but you can't really feel it. When you learn something new, it's super exciting. So if in writing, you are thinking about learning something new, taking a craft class or a workshop or a salon or going to a conference or meeting a new group of writers or trying a new genre that you've never written before, a new form of writing, trying poetry or trying a short story, do it. It's so pleasurable for the brain and the body to be doing something so brand new. So I would encourage you to step out on that ledge, my friend, and try something new this week. I would love to hear about it if you do. You can always hit me up on Twitter or at howdoyourwrite.net. Very quickly, I'd love to thank my new patrons, Pranathi K. Thank you, Pranathi. And Amy Tasukata. Amy, I know you did that so you would get the video, and it was so fun to send that to you. So new patrons always get a little video from me. And Claire Chandler upped her pledge to a higher level, and it is so nice when people do that. I don't know why you do it. I don't know what makes you do it. It just makes me feel wonderful, as if you believe in me. Thanks, of course, go to all my current patrons, and the fact that you pledge and that you get those essays means the world to me, and I write those essays for you. So let's get on to the show. I hope that everything in your world is going swimmingly. And please write and tell me about anything that's happening with you, writing-wise. I'd love to hear. All right, my friends, we'll chat soon. Okay, well, I could not be more pleased today to welcome to the show Ella Barnard. Hello, Ella. How are you?
Hello, Rachel. I'm
Yay,
awesome.
yay. So happy to have you. A little introduction for you. Ella Barnard works with writers who are ready to become authors. She is the host of the Author Like a Boss podcast, which is awesome, y'all, and owns the Author Boss Academy. She enjoys helping people write a great story, find their ideal readers, build their author brand, and publish their books. Her superpower is doing all that in a way that is practical, effective, and fun. I love that. You have like this mission statement in your bio right there.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. How did you get into this whole business?
Oh my. Well, I love books.
That's a good, some people in this business don't, which is weird.
Yeah.
But
When
yeah.
I was growing up, I was like, how can I make a living reading? You know, like how do you do that? And I didn't go like editor or something like that. Didn't come into my mind because I was like, no, I just want to have fun doing it. Um,
Yeah,
and
editing is
then,
hard.
yeah, that's not the same. And then, and then I did what a lot of people do, which was do something else entirely, like become a teacher and then become an administrative assistant and not to do the thing that I felt passionate about. And so then I, as I got into my late 20s, I was like, I don't want to spend 40 hours a week doing something that I don't like. Like that's a lot of waking time to be doing something that you don't
Yeah.
like. And so I started reading books. I started reading books about, starting your own business or doing what you love instead of just doing what you have to do. And a lot of the advice that people give when you're trying to start a business is, what do people ask you about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do people come to you for? And it's like, what do people come to me for? Because like let's say you know a lot about knitting or something, and people are always asking like, oh, how did you knit that? And they're always asking you for patterns or whatever.
Yeah.
That's your thing that you should then go start something about. And so I was like, what is my thing? I didn't have a thing that I could think of. It took me years to realize that what people come to me about is like getting cheered up,
Yeah.
getting cheered up and having like practical, like, well, why don't you try doing this with a good feeling?
Yeah. I think you and I really have that in common because that's
Yeah.
kind of my mission statement too, is to like, I'm the best cheerleader in the world. And
Yeah,
it's so fun,
I
but it's
am.
it's hard to come to that as a realization, as a thing that you're good at,
Yes.
But
It's hard because I was like, that's the common thing is people are like, oh, it's so good to hear your voice. That's what people would say, but it wasn't like, can you please help me with this project? It
right,
was,
right,
oh,
right.
it's so good to hear your voice. And so it took me a long time to figure out. And then I was like, okay, now that I have that, what do I want to do with that? Because it's a very nebulous. It's not like people have a need and they're willing to pay you for that. So then we go back to books where I'm like a really passionate reader. I love reading on my Kindle, analytics or whatever that they gave me last year. I read 363 books.
Last year?
Uh-huh. On Kindle only. That doesn't count rereads. That doesn't count physical books. Like I am a reader. Okay.
That's
I,
awesome.
because that's what I do instead of watching TV or
Yeah.
movies or anything. It's like my go-to is reading.
Yeah.
And so all of that combined to be like, okay, I love helping people. I love cheerleading people. I love books. I love creative people. I love especially women because I did the thing where I wasn't doing what I loved.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
know there's a lot of women out there who aren't doing what they love,
Yeah.
who really want to be writing.
Yeah. How do you
And
tie all of this into your own writing though? Let's pivot it
I
around
know, pivot to my
to
writing.
process and like
Yeah.
what's your writing process? How do you get it
Yeah,
done?
that's right. Okay. So my writing process is right now I write more nonfiction than fiction
Mm-hmm.
because I'm helping people with their writing. And so mine is a few things. There's like a couple of steps, which is first I get a big notebook that has no lines. Like
Ooh.
there's no lines in this notebook.
Yeah.
And so then I just start picking topics and mind mapping. Just brainstorm mind map.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be like, okay, like for my first book was Start Marketing Your Book. and I've learned all these things. I've asked people all these questions. What's your biggest challenge around marketing? And so then I have like my head is full. Like I'm like I have all these things. And so I just start writing them down, and obviously like when you're brainstorming, you get more ideas. You're like,
Right.
"Oh, plus that, plus that, plus that." Then I take that cuz just the process of writing everything down kind of makes it a little more cohesive in my mind because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, it's not in my head now, it's on this paper." And even though it's all jumbled up, it's still separate from my mental space.
Right. Right. Sometimes though the jumble on the page, like the whole mind mapping thing, sometimes the jumble itself can give me anxiety. I
Mm.
need to work with that because it's so
That's what
messy.
my second step. My
Okay.
second step after the jumble is I get 3x5 cards.
Hmm.
I get 3x5 cards and I write down all the major ideas from my jumble. And I'm like, here's all these ideas I had. I put them all on 3x5 cards. And then I put the ones that go together.
Nice.
So I end up with like 50,
Yeah.
you know, 50 3x5 cards. And then I'm like, okay, these go together. These five go together. These six go together. This one,
So that turns into your outline in a way.
yep.
And then
Yeah.
when and where do you actually do the writing?
Then I come to my computer. Nope, nope. Then
There's a step in between.
nope. I don't come to my computer. I do better with the first when I start writing in a notebook than writing on a computer. So there's something, and maybe it's because I started journaling like when I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something really easy for me to come to a notebook and just start writing, and there's a flow. And I'm sure there's been scientific things. I'm sure I've read things that they're like, yeah, it's a different kind of creativity when you're writing by hand.
I've read the same things and I can't quite
Yeah, I
remember
can't
them, but
remember.
it's something about the kinesthetic connection between brain and
Yeah.
body, which we
Yeah.
also do have by using our fingertips to type, but the hand motion is a little bit different.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
we're very
I read that
scientific
somewhere.
about.
There's a reference somewhere that
We're
this
both
is known.
referencing.
This isn't just from us
Yeah,
making it up.
yeah,
It's a thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not a thing, but I'm pretty sure it is because it works for me.
and it works for
So,
so many people. Yeah.
yeah. And so I start like on the topics that I've brainstormed. Then I start kind of like paragraph on each one, kind of getting idea of, well, on this specific topic, what angle do I want to come at it from? And I hand write it. And there's something about the hand writing. I think actually that like, because when I go to journal, usually I'm going there to like reference my higher self.
Ooh, I really
Like,
like that phrase. Yeah.
yeah, I'm really woo woo. And so when I go to journal, I'm like, this is the best way for me to reference or access my higher, better self.
Hmm.
And so I think, and I had never thought about this before we were talking, but now I'm like, yeah, this is what happens is when I go and hand write something about that, because that's my go-to for referencing my higher self. I get that I'm like, how do I want to come at this? And
That's
it's
super interesting. You've already
yeah,
primed the pump, like when you know that
yes,
when you pick up the pen and start writing, it's serious, it's real.
yes. So then
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so then I take that. So then it's slightly more detailed outline because it's just paragraphs on each
Hmm.
topic. But then I'm able to take that and sit down and be like, okay, here we go. And what I've done is I have like a nonfiction book template kind of. So I have certain things that I like to put in all the books. I like to put in like the myths of,
Hmm.
especially around marketing. There's all these myths around marketing and misunderstandings. And so I liked it. So in each book, I have like a myths about this, like making a website isn't that hard. So I have the myths of section. I have, all these sections that I can then take my ideas and put them in. There's always a mindset section because even though that's not what people really want to read,
It's important though.
it's important
Yeah.
though. So
Yeah.
I take my ideas and I put them into my kind of my template that I think addresses things that people need. So like the first third of all of my books are like priming you
Yeah.
for the action steps in the second third of the book. It's like priming you so that when you get to the action steps, you're like, yeah, I can do this. And so that's so I take all that and I put it in. Nonfiction is hard though, because I have to think about the person who's reading it and write it so that they can walk away knowing more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have found the same difficulty.
Yeah. Like I understand it and I have to make sure it's written in a way
Right.
that anybody that reads it understands it.
Yeah.
And that's different than in a different way, because you can entertain people. Like not fiction, when I write, I might not get, I might not have the best description, and people might not be able to perfectly visualize whatever it is that I'm talking about, but they'll still get the gist.
Mm-hmm.
They can still get the gist. Whereas nonfiction, when you're trying to teach somebody something, if they don't get the gist, then they're not going to get it.
That's the whole point of what your book is trying to do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a harder time with nonfiction, but this is what I love to do. So.
And you're following
There you
your
go.
passion. You're following your bliss. What is your biggest challenge then when it comes to writing?
My biggest challenge when it comes to writing is being natural, like not putting on my I'm officially writing hat, where then
Yeah. How do you make that happen?
well that I edit.
I was gonna say, is that a revision thing? Yeah.
I do it in
Yeah.
revisions because I can go back later and be like, that's kind of boring, or that's kind of stilted, like it's just not
Yes. Yes.
personal. So I go back and I add some voice, not too much, because my editor, I have somebody who edits. I send it to somebody to edit, and that's where I learned that I say really. Like I use the word really a lot. Really a lot in my books.
Mine is
And so,
actually. I always use
Yeah.
actually.
yes. And so I've learned that now. I'm like, oh, you don't have to say really. Like people will just know because you're saying it as a
That
sentence
is important. Right. Right.
in the book. So
Okay. So on the flip side, then, what is your biggest joy when it comes to writing?
oh man, my biggest joy, and I don't know if this isn't lots of people's biggest joy, is the response when people, especially around marketing a book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see so many people all the time who come to me like, I don't know how to market, and they're terrified of it. And I get it too. And then after they read the book, they are like, oh, I can do this. This is doable. And that makes me.
Oh, and that's such a nice response. Well, I'm going to use you selfishly for a minute then, because I know how to market. I know how to do all the things, and I don't want to. What's your advice to me on that? I have made a pact with a friend. We're spending, as of the last couple of weeks, 30 minutes a day marketing in the afternoon, and then we tell each other what we're doing, so we have this accountability, and that has actually been making me do it. Do you have any other tips?
Ooh,
'Cause
yeah.
I just hate doing it.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what you hate about it.
All of it. Literally all of it.
Okay. My tips are, for you and for most people, is if you can do part of your marketing as one-on-one, like personal interactions marketing.
Okay, so let's use this as your craft tip, because I was just going to ask about a craft tip.
Okay.
This sounds great. What do you mean by that? 'Cause
Okay.
now you're scaring me.
Yeah. I'm like one-on-one, you find somebody and you're like, hi, I've been stalking you. No.
It works really well, and you don't have to spend that much
Kind
money
of.
in jail, so you're saving
Yes.
money. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this is how I've seen people go from marketing to actually I like marketing. So a lot of marketing these days, especially if you're doing organic marketing and you're not paying for it,
Yeah.
a lot of it happens on social media. And so, especially for genre fiction, what I recommend people do is join Facebook groups around either your genre, and it has to be readers, everybody. It has to be reader groups, not writer groups.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people join Facebook groups for writers in their
Mm-hmm.
genre, which is fine. You should be in those. But only the tiniest percentage of writers or of readers are also writers.
Right.
So if you only join writer groups, you're really limiting your audience. So join reader groups around your genre. Go into the group and ask, what is your favorite fantasy book? And you can get a little more specific if you want to aim towards people, but not too specific. So like you say, hey everybody, I need recommendations. What is your favorite dragon fantasy book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everybody loves to get to like be the hero and the expert. They're like, she needs recommendations on dragon fantasies. I know my favorites. Boop.
Right. Right.
And people they want to be the expert. And so connecting with people around a topic that you both love, because if you're writing dragon fantasy and they love dragon fantasy, and if you weren't, I hope if you're writing dragon fantasy that you love it.
Right.
Right.
Let's assume that.
Let's assume that whatever you're writing you love. So then you're just talking to people about the topic of your book that you love. You're not necessarily talking specifically about your book yet, but within a very short like back and forth with somebody. So once they say what their favorite book is, you're like, oh, what did you love about it? You respond with another question. Say, what did you love about it? Or if you read it, you're like, oh yeah, that's my favorite. Why? Who is your favorite character or whatever? And you go back and forth a little bit, and eventually you can very naturally and easily say, oh yeah, well, part of the reason I'm looking for recommendations is because I'm writing my own book, and I'm looking for reference stuff or whatever.
So you're not saying to do the cheesy hard sell though, like you liked Anne McCaffrey. You're gonna love my book. Here's the buy link. Tell me how that goes. Leave a review. Yeah.
You just say, oh yeah, I've got a book out. I'm writing a book right now, and most readers really like authors.
That's fabulous too. Yeah, because you're being transparent. You're telling the truth. Look,
Yeah.
I'm a writer. I write books about this, and now I'm thinking about my third book or whatever. And then they'll go investigate you. And
Yeah.
I like it as long as people are being authentic with it, you know?
Yes, authentic with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen in Goodreads sometimes that goes a little bit sideways because Goodreads is they can get a little slap happy over there. No
Yeah.
writers in this group. I've seen the
Right.
reader groups that say
Well,
that.
because so many writers aren't doing it in a way that's natural.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, you think, oh, how many conversations, because I thought about this recently. I'm like, I know a lot of resistance comes to like how much time that it would take to one-on-one interact with people. But let's say you do 30 minutes a day, and each day you meet one person.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, even if you did all of that 30 minutes with one person, or let's say you have 30 minutes a day of marketing, you do 20 minutes on other marketing stuff and 10 minutes with one person. Chatting. And then at the end, they're like, well, how do I know when your book's going to come out? And you're like, you can sign up to my newsletter. And if you do that, you'll get an email when my book comes out.
Yeah.
And then do that every day.
Yeah.
You have that one-on-one interaction every day. And in a month, you have 30 people who you have one-on-one interacted with. And because you've done that, they really care about you.
And they might be readers who are not used to dealing with us writers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nico Case famously said, like how did she get famous? And she just said one fan at a time. And I've always had that attitude about like meeting people that, whoever listens to me or meets me, I want them to like me on a one-on-one basis because we had a connection, because we spent time together. And I really like that.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I might give 5 minutes of my time trying.
Okay.
I'm not even willing to give 10 yet, but maybe 5 of my 30 minutes.
Yeah, it makes it more fun when they're real people. That's what makes it fun. Is you're like, oh, it's not just the void.
And if you're really getting recommendations for a dragon shifter book that you haven't read, and yet now you're excited to read too.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. What a good tip. Perfect. So what is the thing in writing that you are most excited to talk about when, you get together with a group of writing friends?
Oh my gosh. Okay. What I really like to talk about is people finishing their books.
Yeah, me too. Because it feels
like
so
when
good.
is your book coming out? I'm so excited for your book. When's it coming out? Because I read 363 books last year. I'm like, so when's your book going to be done? And I'm like that too. For my own self, I'm like, okay, I've said I'm going to be writing. When is my book coming
When
done?
is
But
your book
that's
coming
like,
out? Right.
yeah, finished books.
Okay, so
Really
this
exciting.
this next question is going to be really hard for you then. What is the best book you've read recently,
Oh
and why did you love it? Does anything spring to mind out of all of those books?
my gosh, there's so many books.
What's your top one?
Oh man. Okay, there's a couple. Just one? Are you
Oh, you can give me two.
terrible? Okay. I reread the Anne Bishop Black Jewels trilogy recently, and I remembered why I love it so much.
What
And I'm like,
what genre
oh,
is it?
it's dark fantasy.
Okay.
Um, it's just beautiful world building. So
Ooh.
that's what I love about that. But recently, especially with indie authors, there's a lot that I enjoy, but one that I really, really enjoy is T.S. Joyce.
Okay.
And she writes like Bear Shifter, Dragon Shifter. She writes shifter
Uh-huh.
books. And the reason I love her books is because she puts humor into them really well. And not everybody can write humor very well.
Yeah.
So they're romantic, but they're also funny. And I
Ooh.
really like having a little bit of funny. And I had like a really conservative upbringing, and I still kind of live that way, even though I'm not as conservative anymore. And she always has like these crazy things that are happening. And I'm like, I know people that have those lives. Like they always have some kind of crazy thing. And it's not a bad crazy. It's just like, and then then I got locked into the bathroom at the gym. And it was a kickboxing gym where it was only dudes. Like only dudes with no shirts on were able to try and get me out of the women's bathroom. And I'm like, how does that happen to you? And it's like stuff like that all the time. And that's what her books are full of. Are
Oh, I
things
love
like
the
that.
wacky hijinks. Love
Yes.
wacky hijinks. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
I have
I
a
really like her books because she includes that. And that's not where my mind goes naturally. And so I'm like, oh, this is so fun.
Oh, I have a student and friend who is writing a shifter book with a lot of humor. I'm going to have to recommend that to her too. T.S. Joyce. It's very easy to remember. T.S. Eliot, James Joyce, kind
Yeah.
of mash up.
The Sons of as Sons
Right,
of that.
right.
He has like 3 or 4 books in that series. Those ones are funny.
Okay,
Gosh, they're so
excellent.
funny.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, what about you? What would you like to plug now? Tell us about what's your most recent book out? Where can we find you? All of that.
Okay. Well, I would say, I write mostly nonfiction. Sorry, guys.
That's not something you're sorry for. That's
Like
awesome.
escapism. It's like if you want to learn how to do this thing. But at my website, authorlikeaboss.com, you can actually get the Start Marketing Your Book for free if you sign up to the newsletter.
Nice.
So it's sale on Amazon, or you can get it for free on my website.
And your podcast, Author Like a Boss, you've just had some awesome,
Yeah.
awesome people on there. And you had me. So that's,
Yes.
yeah, you had awesome and then Rachel.
Oh my gosh. No, 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 no. I knew you were going to be awesome before we even talked because I was like, I love her. And I told you this before we started recording the last time. And it's true.
Exactly. And that's one of the joys of this business is meeting new people, new friends, So that's awesome. Yay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It has been a treat and a delight. And, let's get together IRL someday.
Yes, oh, for sure. Next time I'm in the Bay Area.
Sounds good. Look me up. All right, Ella. Thank you so much and happy writing.